with a baseball bat. But justice will never make this right. I need to run and stay out of sight. And no choice, it was me or them. Now for a lifetime I'm condemned. I have to forget my old set way of life. I go to prison or die, 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 die. I hear the sirens, they are closing in. Turn to fast, car starts to spin. Screaming tires, time is running short. I go on foot as my last resort. Running harder, faster than before. Until my legs and feet are sore. Life will never be what it was. My mind is shaking. 'Cause now my future's crashing down on me. They tried to kill me when I fought back. I cracked the scars with a baseball bat. But justice will never make this right. I need to run and stay out of sight. And no choice, it was me or them. Now for a lifetime I'm condemned. I have to forget my old set way of life. I'll go to prison or die, 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 die.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley, brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Natural Beauty Spa. It's been a while, a week, but it's been a while for what we're used to. But in case you all missed us, I know Harry missed us a lot. Says, "What's up, RGV Nation?" and "Hello, Evil Carson." It's in the YouTube chat. So all right. Anyways. But we're glad to be back. We're going to be recapping for a little bit the 2019 season for RGVFC. And for this special episode, we have none other than our very good friend and co-host, Jacob Young. Jacob, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right. Looking forward to talking a bit of soccer, wrapping up, of course, this season, this interesting season, to say so the least.
And of course, we've also got the Back to the Future jingle. Seems legit. But we also have, for this very special episode, we have the original Down in the Valley host, straight from Nevada, our good old friend Carson Merck. Carson, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, guys. I'm always nervous that the intro music is somehow going to be you singing it. I always get nervous about that, but that's a good thing.
It's okay, Carson. I don't have that much confidence in myself, okay? I'm confident, but I'm not that confident. So rest assured, it's not going to be seen.
You're good.
So, Carson, let's go ahead and get with everything. It's like, if I recall, at least for us, for Jacob and I, in the beginning of the season, we were so hyped up about this team. We finally have a second-year coach with Gerson Echeverry. We had pretty much a backbone roster of a lot of returning players into this team. I personally was very hyped up and said, this team might have what it takes to make it to the playoffs. Yet fast forward to last week and no playoffs once again. What do you think, happened with this team in 2019?
Yeah, I think a lot of what they brought back, mentioned bringing back the man, bringing back a good chunk at least of the roster. You also, whether it's related or not, it probably is. You also brought back a lot of kids of 2018, where there was, I don't know, offhand practice that RGV was either leading or even late, gave up a goal like in the last 10 minutes. We brought out countless times in 2018, that also came back in 2019. And you just kind of saw some inconsistency as far as the playoff options. Carlos Small had a pretty good season, but I think his goals were not indicative of form a lot of the year. I could add quite a few more. I think whatever reason, like I said, I don't know if it's something with that group of players that you have that issue, or whether it's with Gerson, but it just seemed that you brought back the kind of issues you had the year before, which you didn't see a big step forward with the group as you should have.
But, we talked about it, Jacob and I, about that specific thing, the mentality of this team. And you mentioned it very, very well, Carson. You brought back a lot of players which had, in 2018, had that issue of losing their concentration in the last 10, 15 minutes of the match, giving up late goals or giving up a silly penalty, whatever. But wouldn't that kind of issues, don't you think that is something that could be, taught to avoid? And yet this year, while it was a little bit less, it seemed like at times this team suffered from the same issues. I really, I don't know, I would have thought that, with 1 year of experience under their belts, in the professional level, they would have learned a little bit from their mistakes to the point of minimizing those kind of things. But it was more of the same, especially on the road.
Yeah, I think you can coach it to an extent. I think you learn to an extent, but at some point there's the mental aspect of the game that great players, or even just players have that other players don't. Where that have that at the end, you remember what you learned. Because even if your manager for the entire week drills home points to you as far as closing out a match, but then on Saturday you don't close out the match, well, you didn't learn anything there. Whether you nodded your head for being told it and then it executed it doesn't do much for anyone. So I'm sure. I think there's a lot of really good players on the team, and I think there was a lot of really good players on this team. It was kind of something we haven't seen in years with the Toros, but yeah, for whatever reason, that huge came back, and they just couldn't really advance out of that state.
Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, going back to also just talking about, that mentality stuff, it's something that doesn't even originate from the first team. And I know that I've talked about it before, but that mentality aspect goes all the way to your academy teams. And the way that, they feel like, okay, we're down. Basically kind of give up. Yes, they'll have that fight, but at the same time, it just seems like, in a sense, they'll give up. And then, we had Carlos Small and having those goals, things like that. But once again, at the start of the season, he went on that goalless streak. And that was the whole reason why we bought him, was because he could score goals. And then, of course, when he went on that goalless streak, you kind of heard rumors and stuff saying, well, this dude doesn't necessarily practice that well in practice. And he, does other things like that. And his mentality is just totally off for that. And, then we finally saw that he could also mature. And that helped us get back to where we were. And it was great because we also had competition. And competition, I think, has to be the key word for this year for at least half the season.
Carson?
Yeah, I think that's a good call as far as needing to see that development, Carlos, and competition, like Jacob said, is definitely key. You're able to be lackadaisical. I'm not saying that Carlos, but if you're able to be lackadaisical with no fear of losing your position, why wouldn't you be lackadaisical unless you have that drive to advance yourself? So, yeah, I think that's a good call, and yeah, it's one of those seasons where you look at it in the lens of what ifs, and you had, hypothetically at one point, what if we would have had Malik Foster, Michael Salazar still there, JC who arrived towards the end of the season, Shane Beckford. If you have all of those guys at the same time, and then bring a guy like Carlos Small on the bench, and he's having to compete like every day, that's just one where you had these elite talents that you had throughout the season all together at the same time and in form and, having a full season together. I think they would have been top half of the Western Conference, if not better than that. But, if this was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. So with that, you can't really look back at well, if we did have that, it didn't happen. And the group that was there to get that last goal in some of those draws or hold on for the last 5 minutes when they need to do it. Like you said, playoffs started last week for the third straight season.
Yeah, and one of the things that, the kind of, you look back at the results that the Toros have had. One of the first things that I said in the beginning of the season, right after that Tacoma Defiance match, I said, I'm pretty sure that we are going to be regretting losing those 3 points at Tacoma at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And those and other results that where the team should have won, could have won, but for some reason or another, we either lost in the last minutes or drew in the last minutes, and we were like 8 or 6 points away from 10th place, which was New Mexico United. And I just couldn't believe it. And you also got to couple it with the fact that we lost Malik Foster after the Gold Cup, that we lost Michael Salazar for a couple of weeks from being signed with the Dynamo, which I got to focus on this, on Michael Salazar's signing. The fact of the matter is, okay, he's signed. He was brought in as a potential Dynamo bolster up the attack, because the Dynamo only had, at that time, they only had Ronaldo Peña, who was injured, and Mauro Manotas. That's it. A striker, that's all they had. So they brought in Michael Salazar to kind of help him rehabilitate a little bit after his injury and then call him up. But here's where I'm like, did Wilmer even know how to use him? Because more often than not, Michael Salazar was not used as a striker, but was used as a winger.
Yep.
And, you notice that when he was brought down to RGV to get some more minutes, he seemed very lost. Like that Michael Salazar, that clinical Michael Salazar that was with the Toros before he left, he was gone. And it took a while for that Michael Salazar to get back. And that, I think that, and the fact that we lost Malik, we lost Wilmer Jr., but that was his personal decision, so I can't blame the Dynamo for that, but those kind of things, and then the loaning of back and forth of players that you can tell right away they weren't putting in, or it looked like from the outside looking in that they weren't putting 100% of their effort into this team. Those kind of things, I think we lost a couple of points because of those issues. I don't know what you guys think about that. It's okay to disagree with me, and let me know right off. And if you want to flame me, go ahead, Carson or Jacob. But personally, that's one of the things that kind of irked me about the season. And I know a lot of people say, well, you're a farm team, get over it. But those kind of transactions, I think, could be done in a more smarter way that'll not only just benefit the Dynamo, but it'll also benefit RGV.
You're correct on that, basically, just due to the fact, I could tell you stories about freaking Malik Foster, and we both know where this is also going to go. Because, or not Malik Foster, excuse me, Michael Salazar. It's kind of tough to get those two mixed up, but I did. Point being that when Michael Salazar, after that whole transaction with him signing with the Dynamo, comes back, he's not 100% one bit. For some strange reason, he got hurt almost every game with a cramp or something dumb like that. So he, A, wasn't scoring goals. B, wasn't that electric, just like you said. And C, well, he's going to stop play half the time for an injury or a cramp, and so we're going to have to sub him out close to the 60th minute or something like that. And then going back to also the Wilmer situation, he didn't know how to use anyone really, because in that long run he didn't know how to sub. He would sub way too late and things like that. And of course the subs would be RGVFC players. Yes, of course it's a farm team, get over it, but at the same time, just like you said, well, our players were used completely the wrong way. There's smart ways to use players like that, keep them up in Houston for a bit longer. It's just, it was dumb. It's been dumb for a while. It's still dumb now. And of course, it's just going to be that way. And it's very frustrating unless there's change, and there could be change, but we don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you were wrong, either of you, really, with what you were saying. I think with Mike, it was one of those where I think it was a lot of luck coming back down when he take that time to do them but not really play that consistent. Also, in fairness, he did play on the wing a little bit when he was in Montreal because Ross was up top. Kind of played as a second on the wing. But I think he's definitely best as a number 9. Yeah, so I think they didn't use him in Houston, that is, didn't use him effectively, and then, like you said, like Jacob, he just never really was one when he got back down there. But, yeah, and I completely forgot. So obviously, you lose Wilmer Jr., who's shout out to Andy, playing well at Butler. But, yeah, so it was a lot of moving parts, which, as we know, that's how it's going to go as an affiliate. But the moving parts could have been moved in a more, helpful pattern, I guess, for lack of a better term. But, yeah, not really much anyone with RGV about that.
And it's one of those things where you think about it and you see, well, then the Dynamo, at the end of the day, whose fault is it? It's the Dynamos, because they did not plan their rosters correctly. What do I mean by this? Is the fact of the matter is the Dynamo planned this whole thing with just Ronaldo and Manotas up on top. And then, how are you going to, where is your backup? You didn't have you had Michael Salazar and RGV, so that, he was barely getting back. Carlos is small, and Aldo with RGV was out and ended up being for the whole season. So if you take one from RGV, which they eventually did, now you're only left with one striker at RGV. With that 100% USL, and that's Carlos Small. How many times after Michael Salazar was called up, they didn't bring in either Mike or Ronaldo Pena back, which, by the way, Ronaldo Pena, I could tell right away he was not putting his 100% when he was brought down here. But anyways, it's kind of be tough. It's very difficult planning, and it's kind of like they shot themselves in the foot at the beginning of the season. The lack of planning in regards to that. So in order to satisfy or to cure the ailment for the Dynamo, they ended up messing up RGV's roster in that aspect.
And that's also another thing too. You bring up a good point there, Edson. Is that the players that were brought down weren't giving their 100%. We can talk about Ronaldo Pena, but another one big was, of course, yes, Junqua, we all know, just didn't have the talent in general to begin with. I know that's kind of harsh, but hey, the truth hurts sometimes. And then, of course, you had the other one who I'm somehow blanking on the name, but you get my point. Those players that were brought down, besides Eric Bird, really didn't put together their full force. And then, also, you talk about players being brought down. They were the wrong players for our team in general, especially when we needed it. You saw how well the last month of the season went. Some people say it was Edson and my fault. Let me tell you something. Superstition, that's a fake thing. So we're going to be at HEB Park next year no matter what. But like I said, there were no real Houston Dynamo players on our roster in the last month of the season. It was all RGVFC players. So you're talking about also the game where we lost to Austin Bullet, excuse me, because that's actually a different team if you call them Austin FC. Then, well, it's that same deal. You take out the Houston players, and we're probably seeing, well, RGVFC at least give a better showing than what they did. And that's for most of the season, too.
And you mentioned Bird, and that actually kind of ties into the previous point of Bird. I think when he came down initially, you could tell he wasn't I'm not saying fitness wise, but he just wasn't in consistent match shape. So you saw as the season progressed how his performance got better. And then, I mean, towards the end of the season, he lights out as he was in his day, 2016, 2017. So I think it was obviously the long-term loans like that from the Dynamo that would be more effective, I think. Obviously, as all three of us know, and four of us knows it's not going to happen most of the time. But, yeah, and kind of tie back to what Jacob said about Dunkla, that was, of all the Dynamo loans down over the years to replace another player, that was especially tough because he consistently wasn't good enough, and Coronado was so good when he got the chance to play, and then he's out of the lineup with no fault of his own. So, I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast, but that one, every time I saw the starting lineup, I was like, thanks for Rob, but, that goes.
And that's what kind of irks me about this partnership is that Jacob, are you okay over there?
Sorry, Atlanta United just got a penalty called for them. They're already up 1-0.
Oh, jeez. But what I was going to say was one of the things that kind of irks me is that a lot of the times these Dynamo loanees they don't earn their starting position based on merit. They earn it based on the paper, based on their contract. Oh, he has an MLS contract. Okay, he's going to be the starter or play as much as 90 minutes, 45 minutes as possible. But he is going to start. And you have players that were doing good, that were on a hot streak, like Coronado, Carlos the Small. At the time, Romilio. Yeah. And you end up having to bench them just because these players were brought down. It doesn't make it. I don't think it's fair. And I love how these USL players took it very professionally. They took it well for the most part. But it's still, from us, from outside, you're like, that makes it should be based on merit. It should be based on what happens during the week in practice, and then whoever is the better of them two gets to play on Saturday. And I think the biggest example is Coronado and Sam Junqua. You could tell how well the chemistry is between Chuy and Coronado was when they played, whereas Junqua and Junqua and Chuy, a lot of times Chuy was very, very isolated, or there wasn't really any connection. Why? Because these two players are very different when it comes to their play style. And number two, honestly, the talent between both players, one is better than the other. I just gotta say it. But the thing that made that partnership between Chuy and Coronado is that Coronado at times would go and help out Chuy out in the attack, but Coronado was able to go back and defend really well as well. Whereas Junqua, he always stayed down. He's a lot more defensive minded. But it's one of those things like I said. But I think it's enough about bashing the Dynamo, and let's talk about solutions. And I know our audience has heard a lot about our opinions between Jacob and I. So I want to hear your solutions, Carson. How can we solve this dilemma between the Dynamo needing a developmental team and the RGV and their fans wanting a team that is competitive in the USL Championship?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I'm not sure you can. It's one of those where, obviously, if there's a coach that I think can do it, it's going to be Tab Ramos. But it's like kind of like if you can go back to what you mentioned, for example, about players are in the spot based on merit. In a perfect world, of course, that's how it would go. But if you use baseball equivalent, which I like to cross over sports, but if Francisco Lindor for the Indians is injured and he goes to rehab assignment active, whether the shortstop are actually playing well or not, Francisco Lindor is going there to play, so he's going to play. And that's essentially what the Dynamo are doing in those instances. So I don't think, from the Dynamo perspective, if they're sitting there and next year RGV they're struggling to score goals, I don't think Houston's going to say, oh, well, let's send down a striker that we might need potentially to help them, or why not just send a left back that we don't need. So I'm just not sure if you can. I think if you can figure out a roster that is comprised of developmental players, and then you get some more players on the first team that are on that kind of sprint, you can kind of balance that out a little bit. But I mean, if you look at the playoffs right now in the USL, how many of those teams left are affiliates? You have Real Monarchs off the top of my head. Is there another one outside of that?
Well, it was in the Eastern, I believe Red Bulls 2 was on there.
They got eliminated.
And they got eliminated.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at it right now, you have, I think it's El Paso and Sacramento and Phoenix and Real Monarchs, who I believe are the only one left. I mean, if you look at it that way, the teams that are competitive and are great like that, a lot of them they're not affiliates. So it's just kind of something of, there's not really an easy solution. I wish I could say, oh, all they have to do is make this tweak, everything will be good. I think you can kind of work a little better maybe on, like you mentioned earlier, with maybe you split it down for 3 matches instead of 1, or you split it down rather than on Saturday morning, you send them on Wednesday. You know they're not going to play the first team. You can make small changes. I'm just not sure if it's feasible to expect a huge turnaround, because you see this every year with LA Galaxy too. They were in the playoffs, but they were the best team in USL regular season, I think, 2015, and they were horrible for 2 years. So it just kind of ebbs and flows as far as those 2 teams in USL.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you, because you mentioned minor league baseball, how does that usually work? I thought that, like, for example, you mentioned, like, let's say a player gets injured, so he is sent down to minor league. I'm assuming that player is down there for an extended period of time, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, training with that minor league baseball team, and et cetera, et cetera. Am I correct, or is it wrong?
I think some of them are, but some are also, they'll go down for like I'm just using the Indian shots of the Indians as an example, but you would have somebody would go down injured and play with AA Akron, and 2 nights later they play with AAA Columbus. So I think it just depends. Sometimes if it's something extended, I think they're down for a while, but it can be match or game to game sometimes. Injuries obviously aren't before starts, but yeah, it's I don't know, man. I so wish I had a magic wand to fix it, but
I think all of the Toros fans wish they had some sort of magic wand to fix the situation. But I think you bring a good point. And the fact of the matter is, if the Dynamo don't see, if Matt Jordan doesn't see that there's room to improve, I don't want to see Tab Ramos, because he's barely coming in. If Wilmer was still here, I would have said Wilmer, Cabrera, and Matt Jordan. But right now, the only one that's here would be is Matt Jordan. But if Matt Jordan doesn't see that there's room for improvement in the way this relationship can improve, that will mutually benefit both teams, then there's really nothing us as fans can really do. Yeah. And no matter how much we cry, we beg, we or moan, as some people say, it's not going to change. It's not going to change at all, and it sucks. Like, it definitely sucks, because we know that this team can be so much better. I'm not saying that we're going to win the USL Championship every year. No team is going to do that. Not even Phoenix Rising. Look, Phoenix Rising last week, and they were almost eliminated by Austin. They should have lost, and they were the best team in the regular season. But the point of the matter is like we're not expecting perfection, but we know that there's room for improvement with this, and I know that somehow we can find a good alternative for this, because the last thing I know both organizations want is this relationship to break.
Mm-hmm. Now, I 100% understand players coming down that are injured. I 100% understand that. And I understand, players coming down that Houston thinks, oh, this is like your last chance. Either you play well down here and we can bring you back up, or you're cut from this team. Now, I understand both of those situations. Now, of course, just leave them down here for a long time. And we've seen it with Eric Bird. The reason why, just like Carson mentioned, he was injured. And even Coach mentioned that to me one time, that he was injured. And I remember I asked him, how do you think of Eric Bird's play coming back from injury? And he said, well, he's still injured, so give him another game or something like that, and we'll figure it out from there. It's basically what he told me. Of course, that's out of context, but I know what the beginning was. So, yeah, that is fine, because I know that both of those players those types of players normally stay down here, like Eric Bird. Yes, of course, after he was better, he started to be moved back and forth, which then again, it's still the same thing, but he was here for a good while, basically. I know that. So, yeah, there's ways to improve. It's just make sure you check the schedule. I guess Houston, all they can do is this: check the schedule before. And if you see that there's a big game, don't send freaking Houston Dynamo players down unless it just will. No, not even for that. We saw it with the chemistry. And I hopefully, of course, it's not just, Matt Jordan's final say, and hopefully Tab will realize that as well. That, look, but we all know that this is going to happen at close to the end of the season in general. Houston's going to run out of depth, so they're going to need players. What's going to happen? We're going to have to send down some of ours. That's the way it will go, because it always goes that way. We always have hope that it won't go that way as a Toro fan, but it just will.
So, transitioning into that, we know that Tab Ramos is now officially the Houston Dynamo head coach from here on out. What kind of changes can you expect from somebody with his background? What kind of changes are you hoping, Carson, to see with the Toros with Tab Ramos' influence?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how they handle the roster construction as far as the first team as well as the Toros, though, because you've had before with Dynamo where Matt Jordan, Nick Alba were picking the players. I'm wondering if Tab Ramos is going to have more of a hand in that now because he has that development background. If that's the case, you could see a lot. I mean, we had teams recently, but you could see an even younger team than that. I'm not sure, not to go down the roster by player. I don't know how many guys will be back, to be completely honest, because a lot of past that you've seen in the Toros 4 years is you get a couple good years, a couple full seasons of play. Don't go up to the first team, you're kind of gone. With that, I'm not sure who will be back. And with that, I don't know. I'm sure there's players that he'll watch the film on, get the scouting report on from the team this year, and think, oh, okay, maybe we'll give them another year in essentially a new system. I don't know, Toros management-wise, I don't know who will be there. I hope the person, solid guy, good coach. I just don't know what his relationship will be with Ramos. But, I think it's going to be interesting to see because he does have that development background. He's played not only coached the youth teams with the United States, he's obviously played against youth from other countries. So with that, you're going to get the chance to see other countries as younger players. So he's of that network as well. So it'll be interesting. I think I would expect a young team. I would expect a lot of roster turnover from this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, what I'm hoping real quick is that he brings his own staff in general. Everyone from assistant coaches to goalkeeper coaches or whatever, he just brings his own staff because that will benefit him tremendously. And then, of course, we'll work from there too.
So Matt Jordan mentioned, and just kind of piggybacking off what Carson said, but Matt Jordan mentioned on Soccer Matters that it's 2 to 3 years. It's a 2 to 3 year trial period with RGV guys. And if they either make it to the first team or if they are pretty much cut from the roster. So players that are 2 to 3 years been in the system, you can pretty much say that they're probably not coming back for next year. Like I said, based on his social media post, it looks like Chuy Enriquez isn't coming back.
Well, I mean, Chuy Enriquez is very excited in Los Angeles. I mean, not Vegas, but he's in LA just enjoying life. Yeah, no, it's depressing as can be. It's super bittersweet, but he is better off for sure. But also, now that we know this, the big thing is, since we know 2 to 3 years, well, guess what, Matt Jordan? Be smarter with your signings. Basically have players that not are 18, 19 coming out of, academy, a general academy and whatever, but a player that's basically, he's almost ready for this MLS call-up. He just needs a year or two to polish up because that's your call. Or, I mean, that's what you're saying, 2 to 3 years. So we need a player that has experience but isn't a veteran going through the Toros Academy. Because if not, you're just going to have this over and over again. So that's one thing for Matt Jordan to really think about is, he just has to be smarter with who he signs and make sure this guy has this experience and he's almost ready. If not, like I said, it's not going to work. And this thing is going to be over in no time.
Carson.
Yeah, I think that's a super, super good call by Jacob there. And it's right on the money just because if you're going with that mindset of 2 years, which it's not just him saying it, look at the roster. It's happening. So with that, you have that window. I don't think unless you sign an 18-year-old with the Toros and you go into it with the mindset of, okay, I'm going to give them more than that 2 to 3 year window, or they're going to be good enough where I can at least feel comfortable signing them to a first contract and then loaning them back down. I think that's right on the money. Like, you get that early point range. I think a good example would be Castellanos, who I want to say he's 22, maybe 21 or 22, and had experience with Los Dos. So you have guys like that. He also was a good example of that. Had some experience in Mexico. I actually saw Chuy on the weekend. He was in Las Vegas for a youth soccer tournament with his nephew was playing.
Yeah.
I got to catch up with him. But his year was an interesting one. It's kind of a good microcosm of the season because obviously all of us know Chuy is a super talented guy, and he had double digits at least, not assists, but almost assists, where he would play a perfect ball to the middle, whether it was to Carlos or somebody else, and they would just miss the chance, or they would shoot and they would get deflected. It could have gone in, and somebody else would score. That range, that Huey, Castellanos, Kyle Adams, kind of, and Chelo a little bit, because they're college products, they're not young as like an 18 or 19-year-old game. So, I think that's the range. I think that was a good call by Jacob.
But so speaking, going into another kind of topic, because I know you're probably gonna get busy in a little while, Carson. But from all the young guys that were eventually given minutes with the RGV roster, and I'm including Juan Carlos Obregón, Kevin Rodriguez, Nicola Lemoyne, Andres Arcila. Which one are you most excited about if they do come back for next year?
So out of that group, I would say probably Arcila. I think he showed the most in those chances that he got. There were multiple times where I would watch him make a move on the ball, and I was like, damn, like the kid can play, but he just couldn't stay healthy, which is kind of part of why you have him with the second team, essentially, to see if he can, build up the strength to stay healthy. Kevin Rodriguez, I was pretty hard on early in the season. I thought he was not anywhere near where he needed to be. I wasn't exactly sure what he brought to the team, to be completely candid with you. And then, as the season progressed, I started to see it. Pretty good on the ball, high energy guy, which is important. So he would be another one. Didn't really see enough of JC to be overly excited about that. Nico Lemoyne, kind of the same thing. I was kind of the opposite as I was with Kevin Rodriguez. I was high on Nico to begin with, and then he kind of was, here and there, would play well, but I would say Arcila would be at the top, and then I would say Kevin Rodriguez second.
Jacob?
I'd say, well, for starters, I think Nico Lemoyne just needed more playing time throughout the season, or else I think he would have really been able to shine even more. But I'm excited for sure. A lot of players that, Carson said, he's got another money. Kevin Rodriguez, Andres Arcila, they just impressed me in general. And then, of course, our academy product from Brownsville, Isidro right there. I'm excited. I know he'll most likely come back. If he doesn't, that would be pretty much a shock. But once again, I think kind of better for him. And then, of course, for our goalkeepers, I would be excited to see, Ben come back, and because I know that Ben Willis can really...
Hashtag not Joe Willis.
Exactly. Hashtag not Joe Willis can really be something this next year, and throughout his career, he's got something special as well as most of our keepers, just due to the fact of we know how to create some capable goalkeepers to play in the MLS. Of course, that's what we need for Dynamo every year. So,
personally for me, one of the biggest gripes that I had in the beginning with Kevin Rodriguez, and I saw that a lot against San Antonio, I saw it against Austin, about Kevin Rodriguez, was it seemed like he was pushed off the ball really easily. Like he needed a lot more strength to try to maintain some composure while he had the ball. He has the speed. He has the agility, to drive defenders crazy. But when he went up against veteran defenders that knew how to not necessarily beat him with speed, but beat him with positioning, or beat him with something that to kind of make him lose his concentration, he would lose the ball really easily. And that's what I saw from Kevin Rodriguez. But as the season went on and started getting more minutes, I was really excited for him. And I'm still really excited about what kind of talent Kevin Rodriguez can be if given consistent minutes. With Andres Arcila, to me, it's second. It's second for me, Andres Arcila, because the talent that he had with the ball, how he handled the ball, how he dribbled, it was just the minutes that I saw from him. It was just phenomenal. the shot that he had, that beautiful goal he scored, the one that hit the crossbar and went in. I don't remember exactly who it was against, but you saw some of that talent that he has. And it's just, I wish he could have gotten more minutes from the Toros, especially with the fact that now before him we didn't have any number 10 because with the departure of Wilmer Cabrera Jr. And I think he would have been a natural fit for this team. And it was going to be even more difficult once Gerson Echeverri started transitioning into more of a 4-4-2 lineup with Carlos and Michael Salazar. It was going to be a lot more difficult for him to get some more minutes there. But I really am excited about that. Nico, it's like I didn't see a lot off of him, mostly because he didn't really get a lot of minutes. Who I really wanted to see, and I guess it was just going to be very difficult with the amount of players that he had on top of him, was Brad Dunwell.
Yeah, and it goes the same way. It's just they needed more minutes for us to really see what they were legitimately capable of. I know both of them can be very talented. Yes, of course, we've heard. Guess what? He has the determination to be a fantastic player. That's the best part. Like, it's kind of polar opposite to how the Toros are kind of known as. Of course, they're known as the team who, if they get down a goal, will get very frustrated and kind of shut down. That's kind of how I see this team for sure. If yes, they can have that same fight, but like I said before, they can really shut down. So, I mean, he has the determination to kind of change that around no matter what. Try and bring this thing back and not necessarily get too frustrated and not let players get into their head.
And
that's of course key.
Yeah, and you mentioned mentality, and one of the things that one of the players would tell me was that this team was really interesting. He said this team is really interesting because when the Toros were the ones that would score first, it was, I think there were in the Sacramento match. I think in the Sacramento match, they showed a statistic saying that when the Toros scored first, they had like 10 wins and no losses or something like that. But it was a really positive thing. But it was when the Toros were scored on first, it's where the team just completely fell apart. Mm-hmm. And Carson, I'm not, what do you think about this? But it's just one of the things that that they did say, and it makes a lot of sense. And like I said, statistics, prove that.
Yeah, it would go with what I said earlier regarding bringing back the not being able to close out the matches. Mm-hmm. Potentially, you just flip it the opposite way. They're not able to make up a ground match. Instead, they go down. They're still a young team. They're not like New York Red Bulls 2 or LA Galaxy too young, but they're still a young team. So I think that was part of it, where they would kind of get in their own heads almost. And yeah, with that, you saw that both years. They fall behind. They weren't able to make up a ton of ground. But that's another good call. I just think it's one of those things where it might just be something with the group. That's kind of science. Sometimes it's the group as a whole that has an issue, and then you make some changes, you tweak that formula, and it's completely different. So it could just be this specific group of guys. I don't know. Like I said before, they have a lot of talented guys. They have a lot of guys that I think have pretty good futures professionally, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, I don't really like asking this, but we talked about the players that surprised us, players that did phenomenal, and we'll keep on saying it. But which players have been the one where you're left with, I expected more from this player, not counting Junko, because we've already talked about him, like that's beating a dead horse. But what other players from this team were you left with that taste and like, I expected more from him, or they talked about him being, more than what he actually showed on the pitch?
Yeah, and I'll will be my last answer before I jump off and do another episode of the other football podcast you can find on all streaming platforms. But honestly, I'm going to go back to Chewy though, and it's not a matter of not disrespecting Chewy or thinking, man, he really could have done more. I just think his skill level dictated more. I think as talented as he was playing in the USL Championship, I think he was better than his stats go. So I would say partially Chewy. Beyond that, I'm not sure if there's another guy. I mentioned almost Carlos Small, maybe, just because I think he should have scored a lot more goals this season. He made very odd decisions. I think it was in the last match. He should have shot and passed it at. Just seemed kind of out of sorts this season. But I would say it would be Chewy because based on how talented I feel that Chewy is, I have very, very high expectations for him, and I just don't think the numbers or the overall performance reflected that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
100% agree. He was one of the players, yes, that we talked highly of, and it's the same deal. We wanted him to do more. Of course, you always want a player that has that much capability, both players to be exact, to do more. Carlos Small, great example once again. And even same deal with Salazar. I think his stats don't show what he could have done this season too. As in, he could have been a lot better. Of course, yes, we can also take a break on him and say, well, look, he was coming off of basically career-ending knee surgery and coming back as a soccer player. But at that same time, we saw how much talent he had and what it could have been. Of course, him getting signed to MLS proved just a bit too quick, of course, in our opinions. But when he came back, yes, he did have a different caliber of play when he came back to RGV, in my opinion. And at the same time, once again, could have done a bit more. Yes, he was phenomenal when he was here. But at the same time, in my opinion, I felt like he was just lackluster, or not really lackluster, but I felt like he could have given more. He had something else to give when he was down here at the end.
So, really would like to thank Carson for coming on the show. Really appreciate his insight. He really had to go right now, but we really appreciate him coming on. And obviously, be sure to follow him at Carson at Carson A. Merck on Twitter and on Instagram. Be sure to follow him. Be sure to also check out his articles on BGN Written. It's called All Toros No Bull, or All Toros No Bull. Be sure to check out his articles there. He also has, like he mentioned, he has another podcast called the other football podcast. Mm-hmm. Be sure to check them out as well. And so, actually, let me just thank him via text. So go ahead and continue while I do this.
Yeah, always fun talking shop with Carson for sure. Of course, we as Toros fans always want more. Especially, it's so tough with not necessarily this team, but the organization in general and how it started. And how did this club start? We can take a little bit of a walk down memory lane. Well, they started at the practice fields and had an insanely good team. And then, of course, marketed themselves like that. And then, of course, we can talk about how this season, since they marketed themselves like that, how it just kept on going downhill, as in the crowd size was from 1 year at 7,000 at the big stadium at HEB Park to the next year at less than that, basically.
Yeah, I think we ended this season at around 4,500.
Yeah, something around that sounds about right.
Yeah.
So, of course, it picked up at the end of the season because we kept winning.
You know what's interesting, and I pointed it out after that game, is like, Even though the season-ending game was on a Friday, where high school football games are going on all over the
Friday Night
valley,
Lights in Texas.
yet we still had the biggest reported crowd at that game. And I think it's what you mentioned. The Toros were going on a roll in that at the end of the season. People were getting hyped up about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that they had Trunk or Treat. But it all goes back to the marketing changes that they've made for the season. There are improvements, but like I said on Twitter, the bar was set really low.
Yeah.
But anything else? I'm not bashing them at all. I think they had really good ideas, and I think it's helped out somewhat. But you gotta pair it with a good winning team. And I think that's where the Dynamo was failing. Giving us a good competitive team, not just at the end of the season, not just at the beginning of the season, consistently throughout the season.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not expecting you to give me a Phoenix Rising. I think Phoenix Rising was an outlier, honestly.
Yes, they are. They have been. It's the same with Louisville.
I think, I highly doubt that Phoenix Rising is going to be able to replicate what they did this season. I don't think they're going to be close come next season.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of players are probably going to leave.
Exactly. They're going to leave maybe to MLS or to another. I'm going to be honest, I do not think that Solomon Asante is going to stay in USL. The guy is a monster. The guy is, his talent level is above the USL.
Yeah, in my opinion, he was probably as good as, and hopefully I get this name right, Fatima Pogba, a.k.a. Pogba number 2.
Oh, the Atlanta United Pogba?
Yeah, I think he's around that level of good, a.k.a. just an MLS player, and could be even more too.
Yeah, but here's one of the things though, and I wanted to talk about it as well. I don't think we covered it, but going back with this whole thing about handling the roster. Look, we mentioned about we wanted so and so to have a little bit more minutes, and we didn't see a lot of minutes. We talked about Brad Dunwell. We talked about Nico Lemoyne. But if you go back into previous episodes, especially against that Los Dos match, you heard me complaining. Why did they put in all these players? Why blah 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 blah? It's like these players are not good enough, and they showed it. Blah blah blah. Okay, I did say that. I'm just gonna put it out right there. I did say that. So you're probably thinking, oh, you're being hypocritical, or you're just kind of changing your perspective as time goes by. No, the thing about it is, yes, we want to see more minutes out of these players, but it's very counterproductive when you put in a whole complete new roster, which I understand. It was a midweek match. You wanted to rotate, the squad so that way you don't play your starters like 3 games in 1 week. That's that takes a toll, But I was not wanting it to be like, oh, all of a sudden now you have Zach Jackson playing and Brad Dunwell and David Cabrera, all these players that were on the bench were on reserves that have not played with each other for a long time or have only practiced with each other. And they look against Los Dos, they looked really lost. When did we started to recuperate? When they started bringing in Cello, when they brought in Michael Salazar, when they brought in some of the starters, that's where things got better. The thing about it is we want to see more of Brad Dunwell, but maybe see if there's some sort of rotation, find a way to kind of push him in, like maybe 1 or 2 games, kind of like that. But don't bring in like all of your bench all of a sudden for one match. They're gonna be los vas a exhibir, like they say in Spanish. Because they're not gonna know pretty much how everybody else plays on the pitch, and neither of each other. Whereas if you just put in 1 or 2 new players, okay, like everybody else has an idea of what they're playing, and they'll eventually get into the groove. But if everybody is confused, then everybody's gonna be confused. That's my point of view on that. And thank God I'm not a coach. Having to deal with these kind of decisions week in and week out.
Yeah, exactly. Because and long story short, there's so many players to choose from for, of course, a lineup. And then, of course, you've got some players being sent up for Houston. Yes, luckily we're not coaches. We're, of course, just fans, just pundits talking shop. And, of course, that is what we are. So, yeah.
I mean, at least we're not Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith.
Really, just at least we're not Skip Bayless, the guy who likes the Dallas Cowboys.
Agreed.
Hashtag Houston rules.
Hashtag Doug Fallis.
Yeah.
In soccer and football. But anyways, continue.
But yeah, no, it's just it's tough. We look at it and what could have been, and I guess also I just want to say you talk about us being short 6 points to go to the playoffs. Look at the 2 games that we gave up 2 extra points. Okay, we got 1 point from each, but that's the Los Dos matches.
It was 5 points. That's the worst part. That's 5 points away from 10th place.
Yeah, that's 4 extra points right there to be exact, because you get 1 point for a draw, and we drew both those games, and we got short of 2 points.
Yeah.
Then, of course, at home against Austin Bold, and we couldn't win there. And then, of course, another one. It's just, yeah, we regret a lot of those games. But once again, that mid-season, how we had those players was unreal, was great. And then, of course, us dropping a couple of those games after that mid-season, kind of having a terrible July to an okay August. So very, very frustrating as a fan, but at the same time, once again, it's just, yeah, it's crazy. What Carson said is so great, where if you had all those players at the exact same time, look at what this team could have been.
If we had maintained some sort of consistency between year one and right now, I think we would have had a hell of a lineup.
Yeah.
Getting the best players from each of those seasons, we'd have had a hell of a lineup and a hell of backup.
Yeah.
You imagine? Like, I tweeted about it a couple weeks ago, and it's like, wow, like this team, we had Charlie, if we had Todd Warden back, if we had George Malky, Callum Irving, Taylor Hunter, Kevin Garcia, if we had those players still with us right now, like this team would have been playoff ready.
Yeah.
But what happens every 2 years, we have to clean the slate and we have to start from scratch.
Yeah, but like I said, now that we kind of have that official not thought, but just the official the confirmation is, I guess, what I was trying to look at, that it will be 2 to 3 years that a player will stay. Well, that's great, because maybe Matt Jordan, which of course we're hoping he'll do scouting differently for us. Yes, we'll get the draft picks, of course. That's already known, because draft picks are worth nothing at the start of their career. Let me just bring that nicely. Now, of course, for the rest of what Matt Jordan can do, like I said, have those players that are just, they need an extra year or two in the USL, and then boom, they're ready for the MLS. Someone that's not necessarily 18, 19, but maybe 20, 21, 22, somewhere around that age. Basically, yeah, I think that could go a long way. Shane Beckford in a sense, too. Like that type of young, but almost ready. Because in my opinion, Shane Beckford looks like, yes, he needs to gain some more meat on his thing, get a bit more physical. That's another thing. This team, I guess I'll talk about that later, actually, but just like I said, it's a thing of, well, we know now. Let's make it right since we have to clean the slate now.
I definitely agree. And now with Tab Ramos, hopefully we can have a clearer future. I think not only a clearer future for the Dynamo, but also for a clear future for the Toros front office, and make sure that both front offices are heading in the same direction. Because right now, one entity is pulling one way, the other entity is pulling for another. Yep. And there's a huge conflict right there, and we as fans are just stuck in the middle of it, and we have to deal sometimes with the way that Dynamo fans sometimes dismiss Toros fans or dismiss the team entirely, saying, "Oh, we don't care at all about the Toros," or anything like that. Where it's like,
and then them saying Kevin Garcia sucks.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, granted, I'm not going to spend $600 on a T-shirt just because it was worn by the player. I'm not going to spend $600 for not even for a Ronaldo one. I'm just leaving it out there. So it's not a Kevin Garcia thing, but because
so true.
Yeah, but the point of the matter is, it's like a lot of these Dynamo fans, and I've said it in a previous episode before. I know there's a lot of Dynamo fans that follow us that do kind of pay attention to what's going on with the Toros somewhat, which we really, really, really agree. Sometimes they follow the games, or at least that they follow the results, what happened kind of thing. And we really appreciate that. We want more Dynamo fans like that. When you have Dynamo,
shout out Justin and the Peel.
Yeah, and there's so many other Stacy, you've got Cisco as well, and so many
Probably
others.
Tabs Dynamo.
Yes, the new Dynamo. Yes.
Yeah, yes. I don't know who.
He usually comes on with the Peel, and sometimes he lurks on our shows as well. So if you're out there right now watching, big shout out to you. But where I was heading at is, like, you have from every Dynamo fan that's like that, you got like 3 or 4 Dynamo fans that don't even pay attention. They don't even pay attention to the Toros. And yet, a couple weeks ago, you had a couple of them saying, "Oh, why can't we just use the Toros players for the rest of the MLS season since our roster sucks?" And and which one? You know what I'm talking about. Shout out Kylie. Oh yeah, I went there. Sorry, I know. I'm like, it's one of those things where, like, yeah, I'm gonna call you out on Twitter if you say something like that. I don't like. And I'm usually not one to start a Twitter argument, and you know that, unless it's you talking smack about marching band, then yes, me and Victoria are gonna gang up on you, okay?
Hey, to be fair, if you listen back to real quick, if you listen back to that broadcast, think about how tough it was for me to focus, because they were constantly playing. Just take a look back and listen at that broadcast. That's all I'll say.
Kind of going off on topic, but it reminds me when my sister was in high school, they used Sherryland once played a playoff game. I think it was for, what was it? I think it was it was the one after Bay area.
Yeah. So wow. Wait. So you're talking, okay? So it goes by district.
Yeah, by district. By district
is like that. That's for the city championship. Then you go off, and I don't even know what it's called after that.
Yeah, so they played against what was it? I think it was a San Antonio team or from around that area. They played in Corpus Christi, but you know how it's neutral ground at that level. So they played against this team that prided themselves for causing the referee to throw a penalty because of how loud the band was playing.
Yeah. That's in UIL rules, man.
I just thought it was funny that something like that. But anyways, going back to the topic, which I totally forgot what I was talking. Okay, what I was gonna say is more on the lines. You have these Dynamo fans that all of a sudden, they don't pay attention at all to RGV. Then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, now we bring us the RGB players. Why do we have the RGB players then, and we don't gonna have blah, 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 blah." Yeah. Okay. So do you? And I told you that time. Like, I'm pretty sure if I wanted to be rude, if I wanted to be mean, I would have been like, "Okay, Name me 5 players that you want. Name me 5 players from the RGV roster that you would like to see with the Dynamo. I'm pretty sure those Dynamo fans are not going to name me 1 player for the Toros roster.
Yep.
And that's what irks me. That's what irks me is the way some of these Dynamo fans treat RGV, or some of the pundits, saying that that RGV doesn't deserve to have the Dynamo's affiliate. That the affiliate should be in Houston because of X and Y reasons. Technical reasons, yes. Technical reasons, but at the end of the day, it rubs me the wrong way because you're saying that we don't deserve to have to be a part of this relationship as far as the RGB franchise. Because let's not forget, and I'm going to say this right now, the Dynamo are the ones that went to RGV, that went with Alonso Cantu and wanted to do the partnership there.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This wasn't RGV going to the Dynamo, oh, I want to be a partnership with Leo. No, the Dynamo was the one who went with Alonso Cantu and say, okay, I want a franchise, to tap into the RGV market, get some kind of talent from there for the Dynamo.
Yeah.
They went to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So don't tell me that, this relationship does not benefit the Dynamo, because who came up with this relationship anyway? The Dynamo. So don't complain and don't blame RGV for the faults in this relationship when off the bat, the whole fault was the way the Dynamo did this, and they were the ones that wanted this relationship. Okay,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's all. And that's what I'm going to say about that. And I'm getting flared up about it because it kind of irks me that every time. And I appreciate Blaine Davis what he does for the Dynamo, and I've talked to him in person a lot of times about this topic as well. So it's not like I'm just speaking, from the commodity of behind a microphone, behind a screen. I've told it to him in person before, so he knows how I feel about this. Mm-hmm. But it just kind of irks me that every time RGV is mentioned by Glenn Davis, it's kind of to say like, oh well, this USL roster or this USL franchise should be in Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, if you really want a USL franchise in Houston, there's League One as well. Mm-hmm. There's League One. Yep. If you really want a franchise for players that are coming out of the academy, coming out of Brazos Valley Cavalry of League 2, you can have a League 1 roster. Take a look at North Texas SC with FC Dallas. They just won the championship for League 1. So it is possible, and it's a hell of a lot more cheaper than a USL championship franchise.
So
if
sure.
You want, and if you want that. But don't blame RGV for the shortcomings that the Dynamo planned from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So Harry says, a bit in and out, do you guys expect any changes at MGR? I'm going to expect like management, so like coach.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah. I think that Gerson Echeverri is going to stay because he also knows Tab Ramos. So Tab Ramos knows of Gerson Echeverri's work, and vice versa. So I think he's here to stay. I mean, San Antonio just fired their coach today. So if Gerson,
they did.
Yes. Darren Powell got fired today. It was
Congratulations, Harry.
Hold on. It wasn't. I'm sorry. It wasn't a firing. It was a mutual agreement to part ways. He went a la Owen Coyle.
Yeah.
Yes, he was fired. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's not sugarcoat things. He was fired. So I left you alone with the marching band stuff. LOL. He says, so Harry says, off topic, what's up with Glenn Davis having an ATXFC show as well? It's called trying to reach the Austin, Texas market.
That's true. It's so, well, I mean, to be fair, how far is Houston from Austin?
3 hours.
Yeah, it's not bad. If you, of course, speed and beat GPS, it's about 2.5.
And I mean, think about it. Glenn Davis, Glenn Davis is known nationwide, for his calls with the Dynamo. He's been with as well. I love that saw him off thing you just did right there.
Exactly, because not long ago he did a game with up in Austin for the Lady Austin, the Lady UT soccer team.
But yeah, this is it's one of those things where I think Austin FC kind of wanted to spice up or hype up the soccer listeners in Austin, Texas, kind of to prepare for Austin FC. Even though we all know that, Austin Bold is there. And I'm pretty sure if I were to tune in, he would talk nothing about Austin Bold, but that's none of my business. But I think this is more of hyping up the city of soccer talk. Not only about MLS, but also about Premier League, La Liga. You just saw that last weekend. They had a Premier League watch party in Austin. So I think that's where this is going with Glenn Davis having a show in Austin. Is preparing the city for the arrival of Austin FC and MLS.
Yeah, exactly. Because we all know he loves MLS. Now, of course, take it. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's fantastic. In the long run, of course, get a city ready for soccer. Get a city ready for their MLS.
I wish we had Glenn Davis at RGV, or a Glenn Davis style pundit in RGV radio stations, but we don't.
Yeah, exactly. Cough, maybe we should.
So if any radio stations are interested, we are available. We don't charge much. But anyways,
no, we don't. We can do it for $1 an hour. Any extra cash is perfect.
Okay. Right. For me, just pay for my gas from Houston to RGV and back, and I'm good with that.
We could do what we did with TuneIn, except not that place. But you get my point. Something as simple as that, where we're just talking right here, and then it gets broadcast. I'm actually going to start looking at those kind of things. Like, I really would like to maybe not have like my own 24/7 radio station, because I don't have the time or the money to do that. But I really would like to have some sort of audio broadcast simultaneous with the YouTube show. Mm-hmm. But it takes money, Of course. So nothing is free in this life. So there's the download link down there. Hashtag what's the word is it? I don't know.
I don't know. I totally forgot. They're in commercial.
Hey, and if sponsors are listening, call Edson up. Boom. Get a sponsorship to pay for that.
We've already got one.
That's how we do it up in RSL.
Wait, what?
Rio Sports Live.
Oh, okay. See, might not be a bad idea at all. Honestly, we want the coverage of the Toros to kind of expand. So one way or another. Like I said last week or 2 weeks ago, there are going to be some things that will be changing coming in for next season. First of all, more consistency when it comes to podcasts. Thank you, Justin Finger, for helping us out with that aspect. We really appreciate it, even though you're a Philly fan. But that's neither here nor there. RCN7 says it was a pleasure meeting you in RGV. Edson, saludos. Hey, man, the pleasure was mine. It's always awesome to meet RGV fans down there, whether it's with me or with Jacob. It's always fun to see fellow fans and kind of talk to them for however long it is. And I know there's been people that have called me or like at the stadium, and sometimes at the beginning I'm kind of a little shy. So it's not that I've lost my humbleness or que me creo mucho, lo que sea. It's not that. It's just that sometimes it's kind of awkward, for me. It's kind of one of those things like, wait, they're talking to me? Nah, I don't think so, kind of thing. It's
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Yeah.
Like we're
It's-
not,
I'm not-
used to this
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, we're not conceited at all. I think that's a word. We're not conceited. It's just like something that we still have to get used to this. And but honestly, we're not doing it because we want to be well known in the RGV or anything like that. I mean, we're just trying to do our part to get more people to know about the Toros, to go about the game, to be more informed about what goes on behind closed doors, literally, with the Toros. We might not get all of the deets, but at least it's something more than what the local media actually talks about, if anything, about the Toros. And I mean, we gotta be honest. Most of the local media have no intentions to cover the Toros.
It's true. But of course, I mean, once again, always we'll go back to, high school sports in general is where the money is, as we all know. And then the Vipers have won championships, and people care about NBA. So boom, right there. Yes, it's G League, but
Basketball
they're
nonetheless.
successful. RGVFC, simple. Yes, easier said than done. Just make the freaking playoffs and go on a consistent streak during the season. You might see some growth in coverage. And of course, yeah, I mean, it sucks that once again the truth hurts, but it's just so true. That's why you see so many people caring about that. That's why you didn't see a lot of people, or at least I didn't see a lot of people throughout the season for the Barracudas there. And of course the Barracudas are probably not going to come back.
Yeah, they're in limbo right now, I guess.
So yeah, and of course their owners just, I'm not going to say anything about him, but yeah. But it's just that type of stuff. You want more media coverage, gotta win. That's what people want. And then, of course, we live in Texas, and football is number one. Of course, high school. And, yeah, that's really it.
So
that's where we'll get media.
So Harry says, I didn't like Edson. Jacob was cooler, LOL. But Ray is the king. But yeah, no, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have conversations with all of you guys, whether it's here on the chat or in person. I honestly, we're trying to get ourselves out of the habit of whenever we go to the stadium, just be stuck inside the press room for 2 hours. Because yes, being under the AC is amazing. In South Texas,
It's cold in there.
Oh, hey, but you have a remote. You can change the temperature if you want. We don't have to be living like Eskimos inside of the press box. But the point is, we want one of the things that I would like to do, and I'm not going to speak for Jacob in this, but I really would like to be more outgoing, be more, trying to get more involved with other fans. I think that's one of the ways where we can kind of get ourselves known as well, get the podcast known as well. Start talking with fans that go to the stadium. Don't be like, oh, hey, I'm Edson, I have a podcast. But no, kind of more like, grassroots, more a natural kind of conversation. If people notice you or something, that kind of thing. But just get ourselves, out there to start those conversations, kind of thing. I really would like to do that come next season for the matches I am able to go.
I mean, I would definitely agree. What I like to do, and I'll do this sometimes even at halftime, is I'll walk around the stadium for a while. So, I mean, I'm probably out there wearing a credential just walking around half the time. And of course, yes, I could stop by and say hi. But then again, yes, you got to be outgoing, and that's tough. In this day and age, it's pretty tough.
It is. And like I said, I've never been someone to go and start conversations or go out there. I've usually been very reserved, very about myself to this day. I'm still like I rarely go out, and I just want to be myself. It's just my little world kind of thing. But I think it's good for us, not only for the podcast but also personally, at least for me, to kind of put myself out there. So that's one of the things that I do want to improve personally for next season. Any other topics you want to talk about, Jacob? RGV related or whatever.
Yeah, I guess just well, with this new signing of head coach Tab Ramos, I think we will see some change. I really do. And it will be change, of course, for the better. Not just for Houston, but also for RGV. Because, like we said, he knows the youth development, and it's great. I listened to one of the comments that he made from a reporter, I forget, it was on Twitter. But either way, he said, well, it was amazing working with the U.S. national team, the under 20s, I believe, and well, it was fantastic until, of course, the first team didn't make it, and then everything just changed and stuff like that. And so, well, now he'll see that type of thing, trying to do his own first team and also trying to work back down. Now, of course, well, probably if anything happens with like injuries and stuff like that, we'll still probably see the same thing because that's just front office crap that they want their coaches to really do. But then again, I think him having his own staff that he knows is going to be fantastic. Him knowing Jerson, it's going to be great because they'll be friendly and we'll just kind of we'll talk back and forth a bit more. I think it'll be a bit more different or a lot different than, of course, the relationship that Wilmer and Jerson had. Now, of course, like you said, Wilmer knew Jerson just like, well, why Tab is down here as well. So I think because Tab knows more about this youth system, I think it's going to be different, and he'll be able to talk a lot more with Jerson about things that they can probably agree on.
And I think also the fact that he's been at the national team level with the under 20s, he knows what they expect at the national team level, what they expect from players. So he's going along with Paul Holliker with the Houston Dynamo Academy. They're going to want to shape up this pipeline to make sure that that everything goes smooth. So not only make it to the first team, but potentially a youth national team call up, or maybe even a first national team call up. So Harry asks a really good question, and I'm going to go ahead and let you answer this first, Jacob. So, with the good ending of the year, do you think that raises expectations again for the Toros, or with the change, does that kind of mute them?
Well, I mean, we made a great end of the year with, once again, this original team. Now that we don't have, of course, Chuy Enriquez, we probably don't have my favorite Kiwi, which was Kyle Adams. And, well, just a couple of players, of course, are gone. With that change, now, of course, it all depends on who replaces them and stuff like that. Does it create higher expectations? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, we're most likely going to have Jerson Echeverry back for the third year, breaking records once again. Having a coach back for another year. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I don't think it creates more expectation. I just think it creates expectation to say, look, this can be done. Of course, I think the first couple of games of the season, it will take time, but they need... Yeah, it just won't. I don't think it'll create more expectation. I think the expectation is for the team at the start of the season to have the chemistry that they do again And then, of course, we'll go from there because, well, you don't know what's going to happen for the first team, which is Houston.
So, all right. Here's my take on this. I think for me personally, rather than hyping me up for next season, I think what this ending of the season did to me was, where the hell was this team all season long? Because you see what this 2019 roster was capable of. You have El Paso Locomotive in, conference semifinals, I think. They're in conference semifinals. That team wasn't able to beat us in the regular season.
Nope.
You have Orange County, which we've defeated here at home.
Yeah, we defeated here at home, almost defeated them on the road.
Yeah. Thanks, Ronaldo Pena, for missing that penalty. But neither here nor there. LA Galaxy wasn't able to beat us, or we weren't able to beat LA Galaxy. I don't know how you want to phrase that, but New Mexico United couldn't beat us. Those are all teams that are in the playoffs right now. Yes, Real Monarchs beat us at their home, but we beat them in our home. So this team is capable of beating, or at least competing with, playoff teams. But we're out of the playoffs at the end of the day. So you see this 13 out of 15 points to end the season. You're like, why couldn't we been more consistent throughout the season? And the reason why it's also not hyping me up for next season, because we know what's going to happen. There's going to be a clean slate, or there's going to be a lot of players that are not coming back because they're second or third years in this system. So we're going to have to start again, start building new chemistry, et cetera. And we're not like, this team is not going to be the same come next season. A lot of our more, and I disagree with Carson about him saying that Chui was underwhelming. I think he was one of our key players. I still consider him a legend for this team. Had he stayed a lot more time, because Chui Enriquez not only brought talent to this team, he brought guts. He brought motivation to this team. If you had seen him against San Antonio, holy crap! You saw them there, like trying to motivate his players, trying to to not let them give up, even though they're 2-0 down with a man down. Thank you, Fuenmayor.
Yeah, thank you, Fuenmayor. Yes, we love this guy for sure. When he came down to RGV, oh my gosh, was he amazing? Not, he was not at all. But yeah, and I get what Carson was saying about Chewy. Because at one point of the season, yes, he was one of the guys that was kind of underwhelming. And why I say that was because we felt like he had more to give, and we felt like that attitude was getting to him at one point. Mm-hmm. That's why he got sat out that one time. And that was, I believe that San Antonio game was after he got sat out.
Yeah, it was.
Was playing with a different fire because he didn't want that to happen to him again. So, yeah, he for sure at parts of the season felt like he could have given more out onto the field, because even talking to some people, we could kind of tell that he was not necessarily impressing them. But of course, he got that second win. He got that basically, in a sense, second chance throughout that season, and showed up in the end. So just think about, if, yes, of course, you don't have to, or you won't be on form every single game. That's almost impossible for just a human soccer player, even for
Ronaldo,
the best
and Messi
player in the world, which is, of course, arguably whoever. You decide who I'm talking about for the best player in the world. Because I don't need to get into that argument. But you get my point. It's just, you're not going to be on form the whole time. But then again, we saw just that mentality And it just goes back to the mentality of this team. It felt like it got to everyone at one point of the season, and it did get to Chewy. And Chewy, yes, of course, got that out at one point of the season and could have been a better player in a sense, but at the same time, he did a phenomenal job throughout the season too. So it's like,
But the point I'm trying to make is that we're losing some of our key players that made a difference this season, come next season. So now we're gonna have to find new players to step up to the plate, and it's not gonna be, and they're not 9 times out of 10 they're not gonna be outstanding right off the bat. They need to get accustomed to each other, and they need to get accustomed to maybe a new play style or maybe a new formation. I don't know, because we remember it depends on what kind of formation Dynamo wants to play, and they're gonna have to kind of feed off of it.
4-4-2 flat.
Pretty much.
That's what helped us at the end. Seriously.
Honestly, yeah. You're definitely right. You know, and not only help the Dynamo or RGV, but also help the Dynamo. Just look at how Manotas would play with Christian Ramirez, and we saw the same thing with Carlos Small and Michael Salazar. You know, one of the things that I noticed, and I especially talked about it in the Austin Bold match, was it seemed like when you only had one guy, when you only had Michael Salazar up on top, without Carlos Small, the team just started spamming long balls, trying to see, let's hope that Michael Salazar can get to it and jostle the ball out of the defender, whatever. But it was when you had Mike and Carlos, and then you had Chewy, Kevin, Bird, especially Bird. You know, you started seeing some of that connection in the midfield. You started seeing a lot more through balls. You started seeing a lot more 1-2 passes that broke apart a lot of defenses. And I think that connection between both of those players, you know, especially up on top, Chewy, Carlos and Mike, you know, that was the key. That was the key to the success of the Toros at the end of the season. Too little, too late. I don't know if you want to call it that. But at the end of the day, like I said, you know, it's one of those things. Like, man, if this had happened sooner, we'd be talking about playoffs, you know, or at least, you know, making it to the elimination round towards the playoffs. You know,
exactly, the play
win or lose, whatever. But at least we technically would make it to playoffs after 2017 and 2018 not being in it. I mean, we barely made it. We barely improved our numbers from last season. We ended up with 41. Last season, we got 38 points. So
yeah, and also to be fair, when have we ever really done well at the start of the season? Not even our inaugural.
Not even
year
in 2016. You're right.
Start.
You are right. It was until usually the middle and the end of the season where kind of things started going for them. In the middle of the season in 2016 was when you had this long spell of shutouts by the Toros, which was so key in making it to second place in the Western Conference that year. You know, that long spell where they were not getting scored on. In 2017, the Toros kind of started getting on a roll at the end of the season as well when Justin Buiu came in. 2018, same thing. You know, he started playing spoiler at the end of the season. 2019, it was a little bit more of the same. But I still think that this team can be more than just being spoiler at the end of the season. This team has the capability and should be able to at least fight for a playoff spot till the death of the regular season.
Yeah,
at least that.
Yeah, it's so true. For sure, it's just, and it's sad to expect this, but I really do expect it, where when the players that are doing well for RGV will get taken to Houston for the first team, and then if they have to be brought back. And of course, we don't want that to happen, but it probably will. And why I bring that up is just due to the fact of, well, I think that was kind of our downfall is, well, our bench basically were begging for time. And when they got that time, of course, early on in their time, which was late in the season, basically close to late in the season at least, they well, didn't necessarily perform at the start till kind of the finish. So, and I bring that up because it's just, well, we expect that to happen this next year. And I don't know.
It's just more of the same. I wish we could do more to kind of help this team, but at times this way is when, and I've said it before, it feels like we're just talking to a wall, and we just kind of have to deal with it. We can try our best to kind of influence, but we can't do it. We can't do it alone. Honestly, we have to have more fans kind of involved with this. Start talking more about the Toros and social media. Whether Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, whatever, but get people talking about the Toros, not just. And here's the thing, and I talked to my dad about it. It seems like a lot of fans that go to the games at HEB Park. It seems like the Toros are at their mind is on the Toros for just those 90 minutes. Yeah. Outside of those 90 minutes, it's rare to see people go out there to do their shopping, to wash their car. Look at that. It's rare to see them with a Toros shirt on. It's rare to see posts having to deal with the Toros, outside of game day. And if I want to be more specific, home game days. That's what I'm, this is based on what I see from social media searches, based on the keyword RGVFC. If I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me in the chat and say that you're completely wrong. But in general, it seems like this fan base only puts attention to the Toros for the 90 minutes at home. Mm-hmm. And I think I think we should try and motivate or what's the key word I'm looking for is try to instill with other people or influence other people to be more productive, to be more involved with the Toros outside of those 90 minutes, which will help not only the team get some more exposure within the social media world or within the rail world, but also it will also help prove to local media that, hey, there is a market for Toros coverage in the Valley. And I think we're at a point still where, like, really there's nothing to prove to them that people care about the Toros outside of those 90 minutes.
Yep. So true.
So middle of the fifth, Toros. Jesus Christ. Astros are still winning 1-0. Please let them win. Jesus. Anyway, I don't have anything else to talk about. I think we've touched up all the points that we know so far right now. Guys, don't expect a lot of news. Knowing how the Dynamo and RGV kind of play their cards, don't expect a lot of news, if any, for the rest of the year. Maybe until January. Mm-hmm. You can expect some sort of news. I would like to have, if Gerson Echeverry stays, I would like to do like we did this season. We would like to have Coach Echeverry on the show to talk about, what he looks ahead for preseason. Hopefully he can get us some exclusive content like he did this season. But also we are trying to do for January, we're trying to do a round table with Danielle, who is one of the organizers for Copa Tejas, with the guys from a local podcast from the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, from Three Birds.
Those guys.
Oh gosh.
I'm just kidding.
Gosh.
We love you, Harry.
Yeah, Harry, Scott, Danielle. I forgot his name. I forgot his real name, but he goes himself by Gordinho on Twitter. Who, by the way, big shout out to him, and this is why. Back before he was a member of the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, he was a huge RGV troller. Like, I remember when I was La Carga Naranja, like he posted a poop emoji but in orange and called me La Caca Naranja. Like, he was a huge troll. Like, and it was like, Respect, brother. Respect that. Like, I'm gonna get you back. I'm gonna get you back. But nah, they're all pretty chill. Once you get out, once you go past the banter, they're all pretty chill people. Harry, Scott, they're pretty chill. So we like to have, the guy Elvis and the others from Three Birds Boldcast, South San Antonio Soccer Roundtable, Seriously Local Podcast, and Danielle from the it's a commercial. Danielle from the Copa Tejas organizers to kind of get a roundtable of what we about Copa Tejas, what we liked, what we didn't like, what could improve, and we really would like to have inputs not only from us but also from the fans in the YouTube chat. But once we get something concrete about that roundtable episode, we will let y'all know it in our social media handles, which is right down there. Facebook down in the RGV, Twitter and Instagram at down in the RGV. So be sure to follow us in our social media there as well. Follow our personal social media. Mine is at eochoa_8 on Twitter. And on Instagram, it's Edson DITV8. Edson, actually, it's Edson8A DITV. I don't even remember my Twitter. I changed it because I don't know why I changed it. But I think
you just wanted to make it more complicated for us to find you. Apparently.
Yeah, because I don't want people seeing how many memes I post during the day. Because that's all you'll find. Honestly, that's why I always, I say it jokingly, but that's why I'm like, don't follow me, because all you will see are a bunch of memes and banter. It's eochoa DITV8. So be sure to follow me on Instagram right there. Jacob, yours are
Jacob Young 456 on Twitter, Jake Young 99 on Instagram.
And if
you want some random FIFA content, follow my Twitch at the Overreacted Gamer.
Be sure to follow them.
Do some FIFA.
Come on. Also mention your racing.
Oh yeah, the racing though is on YouTube. And because it's ridiculous to try to do it on Twitch, or else I'll just get terrible quality. But on YouTube, it's Tip of Texas Sports Network. That's where you'll find the racing content. And
you could also be sure to follow Ray on Twitter at STX Border Sports. Be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel where he posts all of his post-game interviews, practice interviews, not only for the Toros, UTRGV as well, the Vipers, and other pro sports that happen in the Valley. I know last time he did that boxing as well. So be sure to subscribe to his channel, South Texas Border Sports. Be sure to tell him that I sent you. Tell him that Jacob and I sent you. You get a huge discount. No, not really. You get a huge discount, but no, actually, you don't. You don't get a referral bonus or anything like that. But be sure to do follow him. So, guys, actually, before we go, so here's some comments from the chat. RCN7 says, social media is not great. I went to the store with Chewy and I told him you should be able to walk in the store and people should know who you are. It's not that big here. I definitely agree.
Mm-hmm. Now, to be fair, when this is, I guess, an okay example, when Tony Hawk walks in anywhere, barely anyone knows who he is. Barely anyone knows who Harry Connick Jr. is when he walks into a store too, or a restaurant. So,
but I mean, the thing about it is like, for example, in Houston, everybody knows who Albert Feliz is. Everybody knows who Ramon Kyoto is, for good or for bad, and let's not fall into that rabbit hole. Everybody knows who Mauro Manotas is. That follows the Dynamo. But at RGV, like, very few people know, like he said, very few people can identify Chewy. If they see him walking in the store, or if they see him, walking around in the stadium or anywhere outside, and during the day, very few people recognize him from what I've been told, for as well as any other players. And Chewy, and that's because Chewy was the most identifiable where it came to his outreach with the fans. Was when it was one of the best. But he does have a point outside of the stadium. It's not like, for example, if I were to see Gignac, walking, as I'm going through the mall or something, I'm going to be, first of all, number one, I'm probably going to faint. And the number two, I'm obviously going to recognize him right away. And I think we need some sort of way for the team to build that identity with the players, with the fans, and that takes social media work, and or even get. And I always use Forward Madison as an example of how social media should be, with how fun and quirky or fun social media should be for USL teams. I mean, they've built an identity off of their social media. I mean, they're known throughout the nation, and it's not because they're the best team in League One, because they aren't. They didn't make it to the championship, or they didn't make it to the final. But it's the social media presence of Forward Madison is just nobody can get even close in all of soccer, U.S. soccer. Mm-hmm. Nobody can get close to them. Harry says, outside of the Stampede, I agree, but that's a Texas soccer issue. San Antonio and Houston, I think, have the same issues with the average fan. And then he also says to have a good night. Harry, have a good night. Thank you for tuning in, guys. We're gonna cut it right now, because he wants to see the MLS Cup final, and I gotta watch the Astros. Because
I gotta watch both at the same time too.
Kudos, man. Like, honestly, I think I can. But anyways, that's going to be it for this week. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys have not liked this video, be sure to give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Share this video. I'm going to try to get this episode uploaded to in podcast form. I'm going to try tomorrow, once I get out of work, to work on it and upload it. Because I think we covered a lot of good points in this show. So once that goes out, and whatever we tweet out, if you guys follow us on Twitter, whatever we tweet out about the Toros, be sure to retweet it. Retweet the hell out of it. Because we really would like, and also RGV stuff, like RGV, whatever is on the official site or of the official Twitter, social media, retweet the hell out of it. Get them known. And that's the only way they'll do it. It's a start. So, Jacob, final thoughts?
Yeah, get them known, and also tell them to follow Jacob Young 456, because he's still being followed by Austin Bold. Just saying.
I mean, I'm followed by MLS, but that's just me flexing right there.
It's just weird that I'm followed by Austin Bold, but not followed by my local club that I've been going to games to for.
Oh, is that why I saw you with an Austin Bold shirt last time? Is that why I saw you with an Austin Bold shirt last time? No, I'm just kidding, guys. But no, guys. So be sure to go ahead and do that. All right, continue.
That's really it, and yeah, of course it was.
So your final thoughts are, RGVFC, please follow me.
And also, yeah, no, it was a good season. I'm excited for, of course, what this next season has in store for us, since, of course, we've got a young coach that kind of knows the youth system and knows how to bring players up. I guess I'm optimistic about the future for these two teams. Dynamo lover is optimistic about that. Damn, that's what we've both been called.
So my final thoughts would be, I'm excited but scared at the same time for what's going to come next season. Yep. And it's time to make the Toros great. Whatever we can do, I really would love to help if the Dynamo and the Toros are willing to work with the fans to right this ship. If they don't, and then I guess that's up to them. But guys, thank you so much for y'all's support this season. We're going to come back stronger than ever next season, and hopefully we can continue to grow. I know it's been kind of hard this season, but it's mistakes that I've made, and I'll learn from them. And it's only going to make us better. Thank you so much for your support. Be sure to be on the tune out on our social media. We will let you know when we go live again. If we don't see you anymore for the rest of the season, We want to wish you all, number one, tomorrow's Halloween. So if you're going to go trick-or-treating or you're going to take your children trick-or-treating, please be safe. Please be safe. Don't wear dark. If you're going at night, don't wear dark clothing. Make yourself visible or something, or like just be safe. You know how to be safe. Just be safe. We don't want any tragedies come Halloween. And don't put razors on the candies, please. Okay? No pranks.
Just buy yourself candy. Buy your family candy. Just have a big party instead.
That too. If you're gonna drink, don't drive. And if you're gonna drive, don't drink. Always have a designated driver. Also, happy Thanksgiving. Of course. Merry Christmas, Hanukkah. Man, it'd take forever for me to name every holiday. But whatever holiday you celebrate, we wish you the best. And hope to see you all next season once again. So from myself and Jacob, we thank you all. We'll see you next time. Take care.